Greetings to you, all you subscribers and viewers of this channel. I bring you greetings in the name of our God, Yahuwah, and of His Son, the name of His Son, Yahushua. May you have peace while you await for our God and the revelation of His Son from heaven to gather back the chosen ones of Israel. Today I'm coming to you with another presentation by the light of Zion. Yes, for Zion will continue to shine its light to show us the way to return back to our God, to show us the way of salvation that our God has planned from the beginning for His people of Israel. Again, our website is https://www.thelightofzion.com. I encourage you to visit this website, for there you will find materials and information that will help you while you walk with your God and while you wait for His appointed time to intervene in our case. So again, thank you for joining me for these presentations. Today I have prepared a presentation to bring to you, and this is titled "The Means of Salvation for the House of David and for all Israel." The means of salvation for the house of David and for all Israel. What is the means that God have set up, or what is the arrangement that God has made in order to salvage the people of the Lordship of the house of Israel? That is what we are going to consider today, the means for the salvation of the house of Israel. Yahuwah foretold that the day would come. And what has He foretold? Well, let's look at this. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 5. There it is written, say, "Look, the day are coming, declares Yahuwah, when I will raise up a righteous sprout. When I will raise to David a righteous sprout, and the king will reign and show insight and uphold justice and righteousness in the land. In his day Judah will be saved, and Israel will reside in security. And this is the name by which he will be called. Yahuwah is our righteousness." However, the day are coming, declares Yahuwah, when they will no longer say, "As surely as Yahuwah is alive, who brought the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt," but rather, "As surely as Yahuwah is alive, who brought out and brought back the descendants of the house of Israel from the lands of the north and from all the lands to which I had dispersed them, and they will dwell in their own land." Yes, Yahuwah foretold that the day is coming when He is going to raise up for David, or the house of Israel, and the house of Israel, a righteous sprout, or a righteous descendants. Yes, the righteous descendants of King David will be raised up. Yahuwah said the day is coming when He is going to do what? Raise up for David, a righteous descendant. He said, in the day that he's going to take this action, a king will rule in the land of Israel. Okay? And he will uphold justice and righteousness in the land. The day when he will take this action. He said, and the day is coming when they will say, as surely as Yahuwah is alive, they will no longer say, as surely as Yahuwah is alive, who brought Israel out of Egypt, but as surely as Yahuwah is alive, who brought the descendants of Israel, of the house of Israel, from the lands of the north. Okay? And from all the lands to which I had dispersed them, and they will dwell in their land. Yes, the descendants of Israel were scattered to the lands of the north. Remember, the enemy, the northern kingdoms came against Israel, and they scattered Israel to all the corners of the earth. Many were sold as slaves. Many were scattered to every corner of the earth. But Yahuwah said the day is coming when it will be said, blessed is Yahuwah who brought back the descendants of Israel from all the lands where he scattered them. Yes, Yahuwah foretold that a day is coming when he will raise a righteous, for David, a righteous sprout, descendants that will be led by a king, that he will set over them. Okay, so in that day he will grant salvation to the Lordship of the house of Israel. And he will gather back from all the lands, he will gather them back from all the lands where he scattered them in his anger. And that is salvation for the descendants of Israel. Because Yahuwah promised and foretold that this will happen, that the day is coming when he will gather back all the descendants of Israel that he scattered among the nations. He will gather them back to their land. And if you have been following this channel and all the presentations that we've been putting up, no doubt you would have seen that the Negroes is the race that Yahuwah has chosen. The Negro is the people of Israel, scattered among the nations, some into Africa, some into other America and other places. They are the Lordship of the house of Israel, you the Negro. But there is a day is coming, Yahuwah said he's going to grant salvation to you, the descendants of Israel. And he is going to bring you back to your land. Yes, the day is coming that God will grant salvation to you, the people of Israel. But before salvation will be granted, certain things was foretold that will take place. To the prophet Daniel, it was revealed that there are 70 weeks given to his people, the house of Israel, to finish up sinning and their revolt against the covenant they entered with Yahuwah. There are 70 weeks given to them to do what? To finish up their sinning and revolt against this covenant. After the fourth revolt, Yahuwah will then bring the foretold judgment and vengeance upon the people of all the people of Israel. For in the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 5, there it was revealed, Yahuwah revealed, he said this when he warned the people of Israel. When he said this to them, he said, you must not bow down to them, that is the false gods of the other nations, nor be enticed to serve them. For I, Yahuwah, your God, I am a God who requires exclusive devotion, bringing punishment on the errors of the fathers upon sons, and upon the third generation, and upon the fourth generation of those who hate me. So Yahuwah explained it to Israel that they should not bow down to other gods, because he requires what? Exclusive devotion. And if they do not, he said he is a God that will bring punishment because of the error of the fathers upon their sons, even up to the fourth generation of the people that hate him. He will still bring this punishment. So Yahuwah warned that he will bring punishment when Israel revolt or sin or break away from this covenant that they have, the laws that he has given to them. And we know that Israel did break the covenant, and that is why Israel is in punishment, scattered among the nations. In the book of Hosea, chapter 6, verse 1 and 2, there the prophet Hosea foretold this concerning the people of Israel. He said, "Come and let us return to Yahuwah, for he has torn us to pieces, but he will heal us. He struck us, but he will bind our wounds. Say, he will revive us after 2 days, and on the third day he will raise us up, and we will live before him." Yes, even the prophet Hosea understands that Yahuwah will do what? We bring punishment upon the people of Israel. A punishment that will last for 2 days before Yahuwah will do what? We raise back Israel up. So Yahuwah will punish Israel for 2 days for breaking the covenant. And 2 days with Yahuwah is 2,000 years of punishment upon the people of Israel before he will raise back Israel up. So in the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 24, there it is written, "There are 70 weeks that have been determined for your people and your holy city, in order to terminate the transgression, to finish up sin, to make atonement for error, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the Holy of Holies." So, after the punishment upon Israel, after Israel had finished sinning for the fourth revolt, God will bring punishment. After punishment, then atonement or reconciliation will be made by Yahuwah with the house of Israel. And then he will salvage the chosen ones of the house of Israel. And then he will bring in everlasting righteousness by restoring the holy place, the city Zion. So why is Zion being restored? Well, in the book of Psalms, chapter 132, verse 13 and 14, it is written, "For Yahuwah has chosen Zion, and he has desired it for his dwelling place. He said, 'This is my resting place forever.' Say, 'Here I will dwell, for this is my desire.'" So after punishment for Israel, atonement will be made, and Yahuwah will restore Zion. Yahuwah will then bring in everlasting righteousness. So before these things must take place, before salvation will be granted to the people of Israel, that is they will reach the climax of sinning, terminating of sin, And then God will bring in punishment that will last for 2,000 years, 2 days, which is 2,000 years. Then after the punishment of 2,000 years, then Yahuwah will do what? Atonement will be made and reconciliation will be made by Yahuwah with the house of Israel. And then Yahuwah will bring in what? Everlasting righteousness by restoring the city, the holy place. Because he said he has chosen Zion to be the place where he will dwell with the chosen ones of Israel forever. So this is the plan of Yahuwah, the God of Israel. This is the plan of Yahuwah, the God of Israel. Punishment, then reconciliation, then atonement, and then bringing in everlasting righteousness and restoring of the city of Israel, of Zion. So, what is the means for this salvation? What is the means for granting this salvation to Israel? Well, Yahushua is the horn of salvation for all Israel. In the book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 69 to 75, there it is written, "And he has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of David, his servant, just as he has spoken through the mouth of his holy prophets from of old, of salvation from our enemies and from the hands of all those hating us, to show mercy in connection with our forefathers, and to call to mind his holy covenant, the oath that he swore to Abraham, our forefather, to grant us, after we have been rescued from the hands of enemies, the privilege of fearlessly rendering sacred service to him with loyalty and righteousness before him all our day." So the people of the first century believers understood that yes, Israel will be in the hands of their enemies, because Israel will be in punishment. But after, Yahuwah said he will do what? Rescue us. He will do what? Rescue us from the hands of those hating us. He will grant salvation to the people of Israel so that we can do what? Have the privilege of fearlessly rendering sacred service to him with loyalty and righteousness before him all of our day. So, but this salvation will have to come after Israel has suffered punishment in the hands of our enemies, before God will grant us salvation. So Yahuwah has revealed all these things, all these plans through his prophets. Yes, Yahushua, the Son of God, is the means of salvation for all the Lordship of the house of Israel. Yahushua is the means of salvation. The Son of God is the means of salvation for all the Lordship of the house of Israel. So he is the foretold horn of salvation to gather back the Lordship of the house of Israel back to their land, where they will serve Yahuwah, their God. So let that be clear to you. Yahushua, the Son of God, is the means for salvation for all the Lordship of the house of Israel. They want to gather us back to our land, where we will serve Yahuwah, our God, all our day. In the book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 31 to 33, there is written, say, and look, you will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and you are to name him Yahushua. This one will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. And Yahuwah God will give him the throne of David his father, and he will rule as king over the house of Jacob forever, and there will be no end to his kingdom. Yes, Mary was told that she will become pregnant and she will give birth to a son, and she is to name him Yahushua. So he will be called the Son of the Most High, because this one will be great. So Yahuwah will give him the throne of David his father. Yes, Yahuwah will give him the throne of David his father. Remember what I read at the beginning. It was foretold by Yahuwah that the day is coming when he will raise up for David a righteous sprout, or a righteous descendant, and the king will rule over them in righteousness and in justice. So, yes, Yahushua will rule, because Yahuwah will give him the throne of his father David, and he will rule as king over the house of Jacob forever, and there will be no end to his kingdom. If you know about Yahushua, he was put to death. He did not really rule over the house of David, because his life was cut short, and he was withdrawn back to heaven until the appointed time when Yahuwah will give him the throne of his father David to rule as king forever. Yes, Yahushua, the Son of God, will salvage and gather together the Lordship of the house of Israel back to their land, where he will rule over them forever. So he will rule over the descendants of Israel, the descendants of the house of David. He will rule over them, over us forever. So Yahushua is the horn of our salvation. He is the one that will grant salvation to the Lordship of the house of Israel. A good question is this: when is the day of salvation for the chosen ones of Israel? When is the day of salvation? Well, in the book of 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 5, it is written, who are being safeguarded by God's power through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last period of time. Yes, Apostle Peter acknowledged that the Lordship of the house of Israel, the people of Israel, are being safeguarded by God's power through faith. And that faith is for a salvation that is ready to be revealed, that will be revealed in the last period of time. So, yes, Israel will be granted salvation. Chosen ones of Israel will be granted salvation, and that salvation will take place at the end of the imposed 2,000 years punishment, the punishment and humiliation time for all Israel. In the last day of this punishment upon the people of Israel, once it finishes, is when Israel will be granted salvation and be gathered back to their land. Yahushua the Messiah explained it this way. In the book of Matthew chapter 24 verse 29 to 31, there is written, so immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. So then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will be themselves in grief, and they will see the Son of Man coming on clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a great trumpet sound, and they will gather his chosen ones together from the four winds, from one extremity of the heavens to the other extremity. So this salvation will be granted to the people of Israel immediately the tribulation or the punishment time of those days comes to an end. God will grant salvation too. Yahushua will return, for he is the means of salvation for all Israel, in order to gather back the chosen ones of Israel from all the corners of the earth. In the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 5 to 10, there it is written, so this is a proof of the righteous judgment of God, leading to your being counted worthy of the kingdom of God, for which you are indeed suffering. So the people of Israel are suffering. They are in punishment, and this punishment is a righteous judgment of God. He is the one that decided that he will punish all the people of Israel for 2 days. And this will lead to our being counted worthy of the kingdom of God. Yes, our ancestors messed up. And Yahuwah said he will do what? Bring in punishment even up to 4th generation of those that hate him. So this punishment is a righteous judgment of God. Back to the scriptures, verse 6 says, this take into account that it is righteous on God's part to repair tribulation to those who make tribulation for you. But you who suffer tribulation will be given relief along with us at the revelation of the Lord Yahushua from heaven with his powerful angels in a flaming fire, as he brings vengeance on those who do not know God and those who do not obey the good news about the Lord Yahushua. These very ones will undergo the judiciary judgment of everlasting destruction from before the Lord and from the glory of his strength, at the time when he comes to be glorified in connection with his holy ones, and to be regarded in that day with wonders among all those who exercise faith, because the witness we gave met with faith among them. So yes, Yahushua will bring vengeance when he returns upon all those who make tribulation to the people of Israel. For Yahuwah also told them that they will not go what? Unpunished. So those who reject the good news that we are preaching, those who reject the fact that you, Israel, the Negroes, are the true people of Israel, they will see when Yahushua returns from heaven with his powerful angels. Yes, they will see the judgment that God will have decided. So they will see the salvation also that will come to you, the chosen ones of the people of Israel. So yes, this salvation will come or will be given to the people of Israel when Yahushua returns from heaven. So if that is the case, why is these people in the land of Israel today claiming that they are the people of Israel, that they are calling themselves Jews or Jewish? Why are they in the land when Yahushua, the Messiah, is the one that will return and gather back the people of Israel? So do not be misled, for the true descendants of Israel are still in punishment until the last day of our punishment before we be granted salvation. Yes, all the chosen ones will see salvation when our leader Yahushua returns from heaven with his powerful angels to carry out the judgment of the Father. So hope in Yahuwah and call upon his name for your salvation. In the book of Acts chapter 2 verse 21, there it is written, everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah will be saved. So call upon the name of Yahuwah for your salvation. Yes, call upon the name of Yahuwah for your salvation. In the book of Genesis chapter 12 verse 7 to 8, there is written, Yahuwah then appeared to Abraham and said, to your offspring I am going to give this land. So he built an altar there to Yahuwah, who had appeared to him. So later he moved from there to the mountainous region east of Bethel and pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to Yahuwah and began to call on the name of Yahuwah. So like your great-great-grandfather Abraham, call on the name of Yahuwah your God, wherever you have been scattered, whether you are in Africa, whether you are scattered into the Americas, or whether you are scattered into the islands, Europe, and etc., other places. So call upon the name of Yahuwah wherever you are scattered for your salvation. And he will give you guidance, and he will grant you salvation in the last day of our punishment. So yes, salvation is for the chosen ones of Israel, the ones who call upon the name of Yahuwah like their forefather Abraham did, call upon Yahuwah and worship Yahuwah. Yes, the promise of inheriting the promised land is for the descendants of Abraham, the descendants of Israel, for all those who will call upon the name of Yahuwah for their salvation. I hope this is enlightening to you and encouraging to you. Until I come to you next time, keep seeking Yahuwah in prayer, keep searching for him through his words. Keep hoping in the salvation that will come to us, the chosen ones of Israel, in the last day. Yes, everyone who seek and call upon the name of Yahuwah will be granted salvation in the last day. Again, I thank you for listening and for acting. Until I come to you next time, bye.